What's up guys, I'm Uriel Soto, and in this video I'm going to be going over some Elementor tips and some key things that I feel like you should know when it comes to building your website on Elementor. Now there will be things that you may already know, so I'm going to have timestamps and you can just skip over to those timestamps to the things that you want to learn about. But honestly, I feel like you guys should just go through everything just so that you can get really familiar with it. There are quite a bit of stuff on here, and I feel like that some of those things can be overlooked, and it's definitely going to give you guys a lot of value. I feel like this is really going to help you guys out when it comes to building your website on Elementor. I know that I do have things like the Z index included in there now. That's just something that I feel like you should know. Obviously, a lot of you guys may already know that, so you guys can just skip over that, but I do have that in there just in case. But mostly everything you're going to want to learn about. Now that's pretty much it for this little introduction. I really hope you guys do enjoy this video. There is a lot of value out of it. It may not seem that way when you're watching the first part of the video, but once you watch this entire video, I promise you, you're gonna take a lot out of this video. So if you guys do end up enjoying it and you guys do get a lot out of it, make sure to squash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any of my videos. Now I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's begin. So one of the first features that I want to go ahead and show you guys is just going over your columns and how you can move everything around. So let's go ahead and open up a new section here. And I'm going to go ahead and just use, I'm just going to use this one as an example. I'm going to open this up right now. So as you can tell, just have a regular column there. And I'm going to be showing you how to position everything within a column. So let me go ahead and add in, I'll go ahead and add a button, for instance. I think a button will be a good example. So right now, usually what we can do is we can go ahead and just move our button over to the right and then to the middle, the left. But there's actually another way of actually positioning all of this. Let's say we get another item here, and I'll go ahead and grab my text here. Let's say I want to get my button on the same line as my text here. Well, I mean, we could just add another column here and have it right next to each other. Yeah, we could do that. That is something that we can do. But we can also do it within the same column. So what you would have to do is go into Advanced and then go into Positioning and make this inline. And then do the same thing for your button. Click on your button, go into Advanced, and then go into Positioning and make sure that is set to inline. As you can tell, it's going to set it right to inline. Instead of having that selector go right across your entire column, it's just going to be set to whatever your widget size is. And right now, if you can tell, that's the size of my button, and this is the size of my text. Now, if I were to shrink my text here, you notice that it would also shrink as well. So we could make that a little shorter, and my box around here, around my element, is also shrinking. So let's say I want to go ahead and have my text on the left side. Let me actually, because it's kind of bothering me here, actually stylize this a bit here and just you know what, I don't know, call this home page or something. Okay, let's say I want to go ahead and have this home on the left and this button on the right. I'm gonna actually go ahead and remove this column here, and I'm gonna pretend that we're creating a header. Usually when we're creating a header, let me move this all the way above here. Now that's why it's pretty awesome, because you can do this within your header as well. You don't have to have too many columns going on. So what you can do is you can click on your column, and then we have these settings here: vertical align and horizontal align. Now if I were to go ahead and set my my vertical to middle, it wouldn't do anything, because if we're vertical, it's just gonna have it up from the bottom to the top, so it wouldn't really do anything there. It would just set everything to the middle. But I'll go over that one a little bit more later. But this is where our horizontal align comes in. If I were to click center, you notice that it would center everything. Or I can do the start, which would be over here on the beginning, and I can do the end, which would be all the way at the end here. But let's say I want to go and space these out here. we have some options. We can add space between. If we add space between, you notice that now there's space between these. And this is just if you've ever done CSS, you probably heard of Flexbox. And you kind of know what I'm talking about. So now we can go ahead and do space around. And now it's going to add a spacing on each it's going to add a spacing in between each element here. And then space evenly. You can also do space evenly as well. So you can space it out over here on the left, and in the middle, and then at the end here on the right. But we want to go ahead and set this up to space between. So we can have our home page all the way on the left side, our home page logo here, and our button on the right at the end. Now it's just something that I kind of wanted to go over there. So now I'm going to be going over the vertical alignment. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with this one, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and add another section here. I'm going to add a video, for instance, or yeah, I'll add a video. And as you can tell right now, our button and our home page are set to the top. Let's say I want to go ahead and set them to the middle. I'm going to go ahead and just click on my column here. And then right now it's set to the top, so I can set it to the middle. I can do bottom. I can even do space between. Wouldn't do much. But if we do add some other, let's go ahead and add maybe some text here. Now that makes sense. We can add space around, space between. There's just space in the middle there, right in between. And then we have space around and space evenly. It's basically the exact same as horizontal alignment, but just vertical. So in this part, we're going to be going over our Z index. If you are familiar with this part, you can go ahead and just skip to the next one. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a scenario here. This one is really important. If you guys don't know about the Z index, I definitely would recommend you pay attention to this one. So let me go ahead and actually create a little scenario here. So I'm going to just have 2 columns. And let me add some content to these. And I'm going to add a little spacer here. That can make some sense here. Now, yeah, I could just adjust the padding on this, but I'm not going to. All right, just to kind of give you guys a good example, let me go ahead and adjust the height on this one. All right, perfect. So now we have 2 boxes here. So I'm going to go ahead and set a background for these. Make my background red. And then my other column here, I'm going to set it to a blue color. So then we can really see the difference. Okay, so if I were to move one of these columns over, just by adjusting my margins here. So I'm going to move it over to the left side. I'm going to do a negative. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring it down. You got to bring it down here. Go ahead and bring it down. And let me move it more to the left. So right now we can see that our blue column is on top of our red column. Well, let's say we want to go ahead and have our red column on top of our blue column. So how would we go about doing that? Well, that's where the Z index comes in. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my column with the red box, and then I'm going to go into advanced. And as you can tell, we have our Z index. So how the Z index works is, let's say you have my column here is right now set to 0. This one is probably set to 0 as well. But I want to go ahead and prioritize this column here. So if I were to set this to 1, you can see that now, since my Z index is set to 1 and this one is probably set to 0, this one has a priority. So basically, whichever Z index has a higher number is going to have the priority. So if I were to go to this column and I were to set this one to 2, you'd see that now it's going to go over my my red column here. Now, if I were to do the same thing with my red, I can do 3. As you can tell, that's how you basically set the order. That's always pretty important. So let me go ahead and adjust that here. And let's add something else as well. Let's maybe add another column. And this one I could go ahead. Let me add another column here. I'm going to make this one green so we can really see how this would work. That's fine. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. And I'm going to do percentages just to move it over a little faster. Left side. Make sure I select my column here. Let me add something to it. There we go. Let's make sure we select our column, because if we don't have anything in our column, it's not going to work. So now we can move this over. Let's just move it over so then it's popping all up. And we can move it down a bit. There we go. Okay, so now we can really see how this would work. Let's say I want the green column to be ahead. Well, I'm going to go ahead and click on my column that's over here. I'm going to set the Z index to 2. So now that's ahead. Now if I were to set this one up, this one is also set to 2. I can set it to 3. Now it's above that one. But let's kind of go in order here. So this would be set to 1. And then this one, since it's the second one, it's going to be set to 2. And this one, since it's the third one, it's going to be set to 3, which is going to make it right in front. So now we have our first column, which is going to be the last. Our second, which is going to be right in between. And then we have our last column here, which is going to be right in the front. That's kind of how our Z index works. It's definitely really useful, and you'll probably see me use it around in this video, especially whenever I go through positioning. That's when I'm going to use it the most. So now we're going to be going over positioning and overflow. Now there's a reason why I'm including overflow with my positioning, and you'll see why in this video. They do go together, and it is really important. So let me go ahead and go over positioning. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to add an item to position. So I'm going to use an image, but you can use an icon as well. But icons might react a little bit different. And I'll show you guys what I mean in the video. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose this image here. Now, as you can tell, we have this entire long box on this image. But what if I just want the outline of this box to just surround my circle here? Well, that's where positioning comes in. Make sure you select your element, go into advanced, and then just go into positioning. And then from here, we want to go ahead and set up our width. And right now we can set it, right now it's set to full width. By default, it's always set to full width, 100%. But we can set it to inline. And this is where the box, our outline, is just going to surround our circle here. And we don't have that extra spacing anymore. But let's say we wanted to go ahead and expand our outline of the box. We can do a custom width, and we can expand that as well. You can even just drag it over here and expand it however you would like as well, just so then you know. Not really the best, but it does work. But we're going to go to inline because that's the one that we're going to be using the most here. So then we have our positioning. And our positioning is pretty cool because right now our box here is married to our column, and we can't really move it out of here. I mean, we can move it to this column, but I can't move it out of this box of my column. But let's say I want to just move it over here, or I wanted to move it over here. Well, we can do that with positioning. We can do absolute. So now it's not married to any column, and we can move it around anywhere on our website. I can move it to this side. Now, as you can tell, there is a little issue here. That's why it tells you to be careful whenever you're using the absolute positioning, and it tells you that you don't want to be using that much. But there is a way around a lot of those issues, and that's what I'm going to be covering, and that's what I think you're going to find really useful in this video. So right now we can go ahead and position it pretty much wherever we want on the left side. But if we try to position this to the right, you notice that my circle here will shrink. But there is a good way around this. Make sure you're on your positioning. In your horizontal orientation, you want to go ahead and set that to the right. Now, if we move this over, it will still shrink. It will still shrink if we try. That's just one of the glitches right now. But if you are using a icon, you probably won't have this issue. I've tested this out. This just happens with images. But what you can do to be able to overcome this is, instead of dragging it and moving it around, you can actually use your offset positioning here, and we can pretty much move it wherever we would like to. As you can tell, you can move that. But if you do try to move it this way, it's going to affect it. I don't know if it actually does affect it on the live view, but that's just my way around it. So that's where you would just go ahead and move this around. I think that's a pretty awesome feature here. And then we have our fixed, which I didn't really go over much, but I think you guys know what fixed is. So if you go ahead and click on fixed, it's going to go ahead and just add it right. It usually adds it right to the top, and whenever you scroll, it'll kind of scroll down with you. Let me go and set this one to fix, because I think it's too small for you to actually see it. It might be set to the side or something. And let me go ahead and go to positioning and go to fixed. As you can tell now, this element is set to the top here, and whenever I scroll, you can see that it moves around with my scrolling. I can set it to the bottom as well, and that's pretty much how that would work. But the main one that I want to be going over is our absolute, which I will go ahead and keep going over on the image here. So now I can't find it. It's probably because it's set to the side somewhere and I can't even see it. So let me go ahead and go into my navigator, and I'll just go ahead and find it here. I can't see it right now. I'm going to go ahead and remove back to the opposite. Okay. Alrighty. Now, before I go ahead and show you the motion effects, because there are some cool motion effects that I did want to go over, just as a bonus, because I think you might actually use that a bit. What we can do here is, let me go ahead and just kind of run you through a little scenario. And this is an issue that you might be having, and that's why Elementor tells you probably not to use this that frequently. And this is where Overflow comes in. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe have two of these. I'm going to go ahead and position them. So I'm going to go to my positioning. I'm going to try to move this one over all the way to the right. And as you can tell, now we have an issue here. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Positioning. You've probably seen this before, this annoying space that's on the side, and you're like, how do I remove this? This is so annoying. Well, that's where Overflow comes in. So we can do, I'm going to click publish. And right now we don't have that issue. Let me try to move it over a bit more. Just trust me, you will have that issue. I've had it a bunch of times already. So right now, let's do negative. Let's actually bring that to a percentage. And let's see how far we can bring that up to. Maybe we can bring it up to even more. Do 300. There we go. Trust me, because I have had that issue, and I know that you're going to have it. And there we have it. There is the issue that's horrible. You've probably seen this before on websites, and it's because they don't have their overflow set to hidden. So what we need to do, we can do this within the section, I believe. So I'm going to click on the section, and then I'm going to go into overflow. You see how right now we have it set to default, which is going to be set to visible. We want to go ahead and set this to hidden. And usually when we set this to hidden, usually we'll fix the issue. But it might not fix the issue. Oh, what do you know it did? Okay, perfect. I was going to say it might not fix the issue because it is set to absolute. But as you can tell, we did end up fixing that issue. But if I were to set this default, you notice how we have that issue again. And trust me, this can get annoying sometimes, because obviously you're not going to move it all the way to the side. And let me go ahead and show you the scenario that most likely you'll be having. Let's go ahead and move this one over here. And it usually happens when people adjust their screen. When people have different screens, that's why usually that happens. So let me move this one over here. All right. So now you can tell it looks fine. I mean, it still works. You know, we have those particles all around. I know if you have those particles, that's kind of a neat trend when it comes to design. They look pretty nice, but they can cause you some issues if you don't know how to deal with them. So if we scroll down here, you notice that, okay, well, it's still looking pretty good. But if we move it over, we have this annoying issue, which I'm sure you've had it before, because it is pretty annoying. But there is a way around this, and that is just having your overflow to hidden. So we go back and we click on this section here, and we set our overflow to hidden. We can go ahead and just hide this. And there we have it. The issue is resolved. But let's say we don't want to go ahead and, you know, go into each section and set it up as overflow hidden. Like, that's kind of annoying. To do that for every single section where we have these image particles, whatever you want to call them. Well, we want to go ahead and just have this, you know, set to every section. Maybe have it set to as a global option. Well, what we can do is we can definitely set it up as a global option. So if you do have Elementor Pro, you can go ahead and just go into your site settings, and we have our custom CSS, and this would be our global CSS here. Now, what we can do, pretty important. So we want to go ahead and type in HTML. And let me go ahead and show you guys how we're still having that issue, just so then you're not, oh, well, I didn't resolve the issue, right? So we still have that issue there. I'm going to go HTML. Then we're going to add a little comma here. And we're also going to do the body, because we want to include the body. That's always very important. We want to add some curly brackets. And we're going to go ahead and do overflow X. We're going to do overflow X, because that is X is from our left to our right, or right to left. And Y, the Y-axis, is obviously from the bottom and top. So, like before, like we've been doing with the sections, we want to go ahead and set this to hidden. So type in hidden, or type in just H, and you'll probably see it come up for you. And you'll have that set to hidden. Now we can go ahead and click update. Now we don't gotta always do this anymore. As you can tell, it's all set, and we only had to do that once. And we can move these particles around whichever section that we want to, and we shouldn't have that issue. But if you guys are still having that issue, just go ahead and comment down below, and I'll definitely try to help you guys out. Now, let's go over some other things here. And these are probably some pretty cool things that you might have seen on websites, where whenever people scroll down, you'll see that their certain object will move with them. It's pretty cool because they'll spin. I'm sure you've seen that with Elementor's tutorials that they've had. I'm sure they've had a tutorial on this. But if for some reason you don't know, you haven't seen the video, let me just go ahead and quickly make the video here. I'm going to go ahead and add an icon. I would use my circle, but you probably can't really tell that my circle's spinning. So that's kind of the reason why I'm not going to use a circle. A star. Now, can you tell if a star's spinning? Nope, maybe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. But let's go ahead and just use this object instead here. So if we go to advanced, and we go to positioning, I'm going to set this one to inline. And then we can set this to fix, because we do want it to move around. You can tell, you can still drag this over. Yes, it's set to it was originally set to the top, but you can drag this over to pretty much wherever you would like. But the only difference is that it's going to move along with scrolling. So it's like, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, it doesn't do anything though. But let's say we wanted it to do something on scroll. Let me go to change the color of this so it goes more with the website. Now we can't see it there. But let's go to advanced, go to motion effects. this is where we can apply our scrolling effect. It's pretty cool. So as you can tell, we can have a vertical scroll. We can go ahead and do that. As you can tell, when it scrolls, it kind of moves, kind of stays up and down. But the one we want to do, the rotate. Look at that. And actually have it rotate as it moves. And I've done this before. I think in one video I used coconuts, and it looked like whenever you would scroll, it looked like the coconuts were falling. You know, so it's kind of something cool. You can adjust the speed of this. You can have it spin a lot more frequent. You can adjust the viewport on this. And that's something interesting that you can do as well. So we can do a blur. So let's say on scroll we want to have this blur. As you can tell, when it gets to a certain spot, you'll be able to see the entire image on the scroll there. We can go ahead and do a scale. So maybe we want to go ahead and here. So it scales at that one. Set it from the top here. We can show it from. I'm gonna refresh that there. Oops. You can tell now it's kind of scaling there. We can also adjust the speed on this one as well. So that's something pretty cool. You can do it with. You can also make it transparent, and whenever you scroll down, you'll be able to view it. So there's a bunch of other settings, and you can kind of really mess around with these. As you can tell, whenever you scroll, it even moves horizontally. You can even have it where it just have it move vertical and horizontally, so just like move right into place. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this. And like I said, if you are having issues where it's creating a space between your website, just have that overflow set up and you should be all set. But be careful with that because it could affect your website somehow. But that's pretty much it for going over positioning and overflow. And I know that we did go over the motion effects a little bit. Now we're going to be going over our layout settings and our custom breakpoints. And that's going to tie into our responsive settings. So in order to view your layout settings, you're going to want to click on this box on the top left. And then we're going to go into site settings. And then go into layout. And we're going to have our layout settings. And then we have our content width, which I feel like is something that's really overlooked. And I feel like this is something that you should do at the start of building an Elementor website. You should set up your content width by default. You shouldn't go into each section and set your width. That's kind of repetitive, and you can just get it done in one go. Now it's something that I used to do. I used to go through each section, and I kind of used to just do it manually. But now that they added this feature recently, we can easily just set that up. So I usually like to set mine to 1280, but that's entirely up to you. What size you set that up. I only set that up because that's usually the size that people tend to use a lot whenever they're building a website. But it's definitely something that you can look up on W3 Schools. I know that there's a portion for it for responsive sizes that people usually use. I'll try to link that somewhere in the description so you guys can check that out. Okay, and then we have our widget spaces, which is also very important as well. I mean, by default, there are some spaces, and I think I've noticed some of you guys have mentioned that, you know, whenever you're building something, you know, so there's a space that you want to remove and it doesn't remove. Well, this is how you would go about removing that extra space that you see here. You can just set that to 0, and you can remove that and adjust your own spacing. But if you did want to set a custom spacing up, which I usually just like to set that one to 20, but now you can go ahead and adjust that. Just so that for those of you that did not know about this. And then we have our page title selector. I honestly don't really use that one much. So there isn't really that much I could tell you about that one. And our stretch sections to fit, don't really use that one too often. So I'm not really going to be going over those. But the ones that I do want to be going over are your default page layout. This one is pretty important. I'm sure you've noticed whenever yourself or a client starts a brand new page, you'll get into Elementor and you'll have that extra spacing above that'll show the title. Well, And then you have to go into your settings and you have to set your default page layout, right? And we usually set it to full width, but you can actually set that up by default, which I feel like is very important. So I usually like to set mine up to Elementor full width, so then my client doesn't have to go ahead and do that on his own whenever he tries to start a new page, because usually they're a little bit confused on that part. So I would always have that at Elementor full width unless you're doing something different. Now we have our breakpoints. Pretty important. We have our mobile and tablet. Basically, whenever your screen reaches a certain size, you'll have these custom breakpoints, and I'll be going over those a little more probably in the next part of this video when we go over responsiveness. You'll kind of see what I mean. But basically, let me go ahead and actually show you an example of this so you know what I'm talking about here. Let me go ahead and just view my website here. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know what this is, but if for some reason you don't know what the breakpoints are, basically, whenever your website reaches a certain size, you can go ahead and adjust all of your element size. Let's say you want to go ahead and adjust your text size at the tablet. Well, you'll notice that once I reach tablet, my text will shrink, and once I reach mobile, my text will also shrink as well, at least a little. And everything will get adjusted to that specific size. And we can go ahead and set that up within Elementor. As you can tell, whenever we reach a certain size, you see that those these boxes now switch to just these boxes here will now just be on their own row, just be one by one. And that's pretty much just setting up your custom breakpoints as right there. As you can tell, we have our breakpoints here, which is the one that we were talking about, which is at 1024. And then I believe our other one, which was at 767, I believe. Those are around there, 768. So those would be our breakpoints there. Now let's say I wanted to set a custom breakpoint on here for tablet. I don't want things to change on for tablet mode until people reach maybe, let's do 900 instead. Because right now, as you can tell, whenever it reaches a size of 10, was at 1024 or something like that. Let me go over here. You notice once I pass 1020, see that it'll change, text size will shrink. But if I update this, you notice that now my text size is still the same size here until I go over 900. That's when it shrinks now. See that? And basically it's the same thing with mobile as well. Now usually I leave that about the same, but you can go ahead and switch that off depending on how you want to go ahead and optimize your website for mobile. So I'm going to go ahead and just save those settings there. And now we're going to be going over the responsiveness, and that part is also really important as well. And that's, like I said, is going to tie into our page layout and our breakpoints that we just set up here. So in order to review the responsiveness of each section, all we need to do is click on your section and then go to advanced and go to responsiveness, and you can just check that out within any element, section, column, or whatever. And you can hide these on specific screen sizes. So we can hide this on tablet. So basically, whenever it reaches 1025, which we did set up that breakpoint, you will notice if I go ahead and click update, because right now we can view this. No problem, we can view this. But whenever we go under 1025, you'll notice that that section will be gone. That's how we can hide specific sections, columns, elements. And we can do this, like I said, we can do the same thing for specific elements, buttons, text, whatever you may want to do. You can go ahead and hide those. Just go to advanced, go to responsiveness, hide it on tablet, and it'll be gone. And this is kind of useful. Let's just say you can't really adjust something on desktop and mobile. You have to have two specific sections for mobile and for desktop. For some reason, it just won't adjust whenever you're trying to optimize it. You can go ahead and just create two of them, adjust this one for mobile and then adjust this one for desktop, which is something I wouldn't suggest. But if for some reason you can't have it adjust on both devices, for just one section, then that is an option that you can do. And it's something that I've done in the past. I really try not to do it now, but it's definitely something that you can do as well. So like I said, you can just click on this section, go into advanced, responsive, and you can hide this. And then, or we can go into tablet mode, and then we can go ahead and adjust these for specific screen sizes. So as you notice, whenever I would shrink my screen, you notice that my text would get smaller. Well, you will notice now, whenever we click on the pencil icon here, you'll notice that this size is set to tablet right now. But if we were to go to mobile, and if we click on this, the size now is set to mobile. We can easily click on this and just move through each one. Now this is very important to notice, because there will be some sort of settings that don't allow you to adjust it on a specific device. For instance, whenever I go in here and I go to layout, you notice that yes, I can adjust this on a specific size, but I can't adjust these columns gaps for a specific size. You notice that I don't have that little the little icon of the device. So I can't really adjust that for a specific size. It's just going to be universal for all of them. But that is something to keep in mind. It's something that I did want to go over. And hopefully you guys are understanding what I'm talking about, at least so far. If you guys do have any questions on this, just feel free to comment down below, and I'll definitely try to help you guys out. So we could go ahead and just adjust this for mobile. So let me go ahead and show you. I'm going to go into style, sorry, for tablet. And I can even make this a really small size. And if I were to shrink this, and sorry, save it, and then refresh this, notice that once you reach our tablet size, it's going to shrink to that size that we set. And then you can also adjust your weight as well. That's also going to matter as well. You can change the weight for a specific size. So we can maybe do 900, which doesn't make that much of a difference anyway. And once it reaches that specific size, your text will change. Well, when I say size, I mean like the width of your breakpoint. Once it reaches that specific breakpoint, your text is going to change. I'm going to go back because I kind of liked how that was earlier. And it's the same thing for mobile. Like I said, you can go ahead and adjust that. And then you can also do the same thing when it comes to your spacing as well. This part's really useful. So when it comes to advanced as well, you can go ahead and actually set these up. Let's say for some reason on mobile, you don't want to have the spacing on there. Well, you can go ahead and remove it completely. Now on mobile, you notice that we won't have that spacing anymore. If I just, let me see how it is. So right now you can see the spacing, right? So now that it's saved, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this actually. And you can see now that we don't really have that spacing too much. We kind of moved above there. And it's pretty much set to how we had it. And then the other thing that I did want to go over, which is pretty important here, and like I said, you can adjust those for your margin and for your padding on for a specific size, even for your z-index as well. So I know that we kind of did go over that in this video. Another part that I wanted to go over, which is pretty important here, whenever you click on a column, you can set up a specific column width, and you can set that up to a specific device. So right now we can see that we have two columns here. Now when we go to mobile, you'll notice that their column is now set to 100% and they're not side by side anymore. But we actually can do that because from what you can tell, there are two columns. And they're on mobile, they're set to 100%. But we can actually move these to 50% and they'll be side by side if I go to the other one. And I set this one up to 50%. Now you'll notice that they're side by side. Now yeah, that is something you can do. I mean, it might not look the best on your screen, but that is an option there, and that is something that I wanted to show you because that is something that's pretty important and can be overlooked sometimes, especially if you're just starting out. But if you already know this, a lot of you guys might already know this, but I just wanted to go over it just in case. I know that I did go over quite a bit of things. Obviously, I'm not gonna go over completely everything, but I just wanted to give you guys some tips on how I go about building my websites, so you guys can adjust those on your websites later on. Now, hopefully you guys did learn something in this video. If you guys didn't learn anything, honestly, just comment down below and let me know. But I'm sure you guys actually did learn something from this because there were a few things that I kind of didn't do in the past that I do now. And hopefully that can really help you guys out when it comes to building your website or your website's clients or your clients' websites. Now, that's pretty much it for this video. I did probably go over a lot. I don't know if I'm going to have everything that I went over in just one video. I did record quite a bit of stuff just to help you guys out. So this video will be kind of long. I might just split it into parts, or I might just make them into just completely their own separate videos, separate titles. But we'll just see how I go about doing that. But anyway, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to squash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It definitely helps me out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any of my videos. I do have a Patreon, so you guys can go ahead and check that out if you do want to support your channel. I'll have that in the description so you guys can check that out. Now that's pretty much it for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.